Okay, guys, so this is going to be factoring set number 2 examples. So we're going to start off by foiling out some expressions. Make sure we review how to do that. Okay, so FOIL is first, outer, inner, last, or you can box method. Either works for me. So 2x times x is 2x squared. Your outer terms, negative 3x. Your inner terms, 10x. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. So we're going to combine our like terms in the middle, so we get 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. Okay? Now, something quantity squared, we've already done this before, but I'll give you the little formula out to the side. So a plus b squared, quantity squared, is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, so when I've been saying square the first, take the 2 in the middle and double it, square the last. So we're going to square the first term is 4x squared. Make sure you square both things, the whole thing. Take the 2 in the middle, multiply it and double it. So 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20x. And we're going to square the last term as 25. Now, we've already encountered this. We were multiplying polynomials with the functions lesson. So let's make sure we review how to do this. So when I say FOIL, I mean distribute. So I'm going to take everything and I'm going to multiply it to the first term. So x, like that. So x squared times x is x cubed. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x squared. 1 times x is x. Now I'm going to do everything to the 3. So x squared times 3 is 3x squared. Negative 2x times 3 is a negative 6x. And 1 times 3 is 3. So I get x cubed, combine my like terms. So we get plus x squared minus 5x plus 3. Okay, and that is how we FOIL or distribute. Okay, some more factoring examples. So we're going to do these mentally. So factors of 8 that give you negative 6 are going to be negative 4 and negative 2. Remember that a minus plus factors to a minus minus. The next one looks like it's going to be a difference of squares, but we need to factor out a GCF first. So the GCF between 27 and 48 should be 3. So we get 9x squared minus 16. Square root of 9 is 3. And square root of 16 is 4, so 3x plus 4 and 3x minus 4, like that. Next one. What do they have in common? Well, they got a negative 5 in common and an x in common. So we're going to factor out negative 5x. Okay, 15 divided by 5 is 3. X squared divided by x is x, and then plus 1. Negative 5x divided by negative 5x gives you the 1. Okay, 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. They don't have anything in common. So we'll do PSF on this. So your product is going to be 36x squared. Your sum is going to be 12x. So 6 and 6 are your factors. Because 6 times 6 gives you 36, and they add to 12. So this is going to be 4x squared plus 6x plus 6x plus 9. They have a 2 in common, so we factor that out. And this term has a 3 in common, so we got a 2x plus 3. They match up. So this factors to 2x plus 3 quantity squared. Now, this also follows this pattern that we discussed up here, the a plus b quantity squared. You see that if I square the first term, you get 2x quantity squared is 4x squared. And then if I take these two and multiply it, you get 3 times 2 is 6. And double it, you get 12. Square the last term is 9. Okay, next one, PSF on that. Your product is going to be negative 18x squared. Your sum is going to be negative 3x. So 6 and 3 Sign in the middle goes with the larger factor, so negative 6 and 3x. So we get 2x squared minus 6x plus 3x minus 9. And we're going to group the first two terms, the last two terms together. So we get 2x times x minus 3. And you have a GCF of 3 with those. This is going to factor to 2x plus 3 and x minus 3. Next one, we have 4 terms. Anytime you have 4 terms, you're usually going to factor by grouping is where you're going to start. So we already know how to do that. So they have an x squared in common. They have a 2 in common. So we're left with x squared plus 2 and x minus 4. Now, we know that x squared plus 2 does not factor because sum of squares does not factor. Now, it's possible that if you get a difference of squares here, you might have to break it down again, so don't forget to do that. We're going to factor as much as possible. GCF here is going to be an x, so we get 8x squared minus 10x minus 3. Okay, so your product is going to be a negative 24x squared. Your sum is going to be negative 10x. So your factors, 6 and 4 give you, people would mess up on this. 6 and 4 give you a 10, but negative 6 times negative 4 gives you a positive 24. So you can't use that. So we have to use a negative 12x and a 2x, okay? Because negative 12 plus 2 gives you negative 10, and when you multiply, you get negative 24. So we're going to get 8x squared minus 12x plus 2x minus 3. Your x's, we got a 2x in common. Actually, 4x. 4x in common. 8 divided by 4 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. And they have a GCF of 1 over here. So we're not going to forget that we have an x on the outside. So we get x times 4x plus 1 and 2x minus 3. Okay, on to the next page. Okay, we're going to start off with difference of cubes. So we're going to identify my a is going to be x. My b, the cube root of 8 is 2. And we're going to follow our form. So it's x minus 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 4. And like I said in the previous lesson, this will never factor. Okay. X to the 4th minus 81. So this is going to be difference of squares. Okay. So it's going to factor to x squared plus 9 and x squared minus 9. So when I take a square root of x to the 4th, I'm dividing the exponent by 2. Okay, so 4 divided by 2 gives you an x squared. Now, x squared plus 9 doesn't factor, but this can factor down further, another difference of squares. Okay, so you got to make sure you do that. So we get x squared plus 9 and x plus 3, x minus 3 as your final answer. Next one. Okay, so we're going to do PSF on this. Your product is going to be 49x squared. Your sum is going to be 14x. So the factors of 49 are going to be 7 and 7. And they both add to be 14 and multiply to be 49. Okay, so we're going to do 49x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 1. So x and 7, we can factor that out. And we can have a GCF of a 1 in the last term. So this becomes 7x plus 1 times 7x plus 1. So you get 7x plus 1 quantity squared. Okay, next example. What do they have in common? So this is going to be a grouping by factoring. Factoring by grouping, sorry, it's late. It's almost 11 o'clock right now. Sorry. So first two terms have an x cubed in common. and the last two terms have a 1 in common. Okay, so we're going to get x cubed plus 1 and x minus 1. Now, sum of cubes, we know how to factor that now. So your a is going to be x and your b is going to be 1. So this is going to factor to x plus 1 times x squared minus x plus 1 times x minus 1. Okay, I'm just going to bring that down. So remember, x cubed, sum of cubes is going to follow a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. Okay, it'll just take you a little bit of time to memorize those. I still have to look them up every now and then just to make sure I'm doing right. Okay, so GCF between the first two terms is going to be x squared. GCF between the last two terms is going to be minus 1. Remember what I said, if this third term is negative, you have to make sure you factor out the negative right there. So we get x squared minus 1, we get x minus 3. Difference of squares is going to break down again. So we get x plus 1, x minus 1 times x minus 3. Oops, sorry, hit the camera. So this has been factoring examples set number 2. Hopefully you get this a little bit better than the last set of problems, and we'll come back and we'll do some more with factoring review set number 3. Thanks, have a good night.